It turns out that ChatGPT, like Google or anyone else, they have to decide what sources matter, and that is a process that is basically SEO. And then a precursor to that is not evident because it doesn't follow do basic keyword research from a tool and then go to 3 competitors and copy all the things they're doing, is figuring out. I get on calls all the time, people are like, what do I think about all this? Because I think an interesting thing is when you and I met, people always say like, SEO is moving so fast, SEO is changing a lot. In reality, I don't think it was. It was like there was a simple mental model. It was you put in content and links and you get out rankings and traffic and attributable revenue. There were more nuances, but at the end of the day, like it was a simple mental model. Now, the fact that there's multiple platforms, search is moving into a chat interface, there's personalization, all of this means like everyone asks the very reasonable question of like, okay, my mental model from before is broken. How do I think about it? And one way I like to articulate it is search used to be 2-dimensional, which means like it was all about like my job was we will get a blue link from your site on top of other blue links, preferably to the top of all the blue links. And there's all this sort of industry, I think, kind of pointless arguing about like, is SEO GEO or this or that? Like to me, it's like naming stuff, call it whatever you want. Like before, it was put my blue link on top of other blue links, and it's about like it's sort of like what's the term again? Like I don't know. It's like it's all or nothing. Like I either like get the click or I don't. It's I rank or I don't. Now it's a lot more nuanced, and people are having conversations with a search chatbot, whatever you want to call it, where they're not just getting like a list of links, they're getting an opinion, and they're being able to get asked questions. Like it's not just, okay, what's the best email marketing software? And I have a list of links to choose from. It's, well, here's a list. Each one has pros, each one has cons. Let me ask you a follow-up question to understand like what you need. And that to me is a third dimension. So if the 2-dimensional was just list of links, now it's 3-dimensional because you also have this concept of how are we being described and in what context. So to me, that's like the starting point of how I think about what's changed.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, Nigel coming in with a hot take. I just want to kick us off, Nigel. I am your host, Greg Heilers. This is Jolly SEO's TLDR. And if we ended right there, Nigel, I think it would be good, but we at least need to introduce the people to you. Nigel Stevens, thank you so much for coming back on. Let's just continue where you kicked off really hot. When we met, it was produce your content, grab your traffic, and everything else will work itself out. And you were saying that doesn't really fly as much now. I mean, we know it's not about the 10 blue links so much. People have been trying to tell us SEOs that for a while, but actually it's really interesting. The 10 blue links still matter in my opinion. It's just the number 1 isn't as relevant. We had Medahan Yeshalyurt on the pod. He found RRF inside ChatGPT's algorithm. So it's really about trying to get in that top 10, and there's weighting to it, and you want to try to grab multiple slots. So you were just on a tear there. What are we doing here as SEOs? Because I have noticed now we need to think of ourselves as like marketers again. It feels like we need to be a little not omni, but more.
Yeah, so again, like I think there's sort of like a conceptual question here and then a tactical question. I think you touched on the tactical one, which I completely agree with, which is like if search is becoming more conversational, what informs that? And at least a good chunk of it is regular search results. Because it turns out that ChatGPT, like Google or anyone else, they have to decide what sources matter, and that is a process that is basically SEO. But I think there's a question of like there's ranking in blue links for the sake of getting that traffic, and I think that will probably be there to some degree for a long time, but like we see it going down in like the overall traffic trends. But then there's the I care about that to influence these conversations, and I think SEO folks have a hard time with wrapping their heads around this, myself included, because it's just so different and it's not immediately obvious what that means. But I think conceptually it means like our job is now to influence what conversations we are talked about in and how we are talked about. And then a precursor to that is not evident because it doesn't follow do basic keyword research from a tool and then go to 3 competitors and copy all the things they're doing, is figuring out what we care about and why. And I have a process for that, but it's a little bit different than what I hear other people talking about.
Hey, hope you're enjoying the show. We're going to get right back to it. Real quick, if you're not sure how you're showing up in AI tools like ChatGPT, Perplexity, and the like, click on that first link in the description. If you fill that out for us, we'll send you your own AI visibility report and see how we can help you boost your results. All right, without further ado, remember that link and enjoy the rest of the show. You know, what you were just talking about is like, I would phrase it as like seeding the conversation. It's why I struggle with black hat and white hat as terms even anymore, because we have gone from we're the earned link builders, we stand against the black hat, almost morally superior, and now we're like, oh, Reddit is in the conversation. Like we could get your brand mentioned in Reddit. Like obviously that's where all the brands are going. There's still something there where there are obvious quote unquote black hat tactics. What I think of it now is just what's your focus? Like quick ROI, and you don't really care about the longevity of the brand attached to that play? Or are you more like us where we're not really in the performance side, we're in the brand marketer side, where we want to protect the brand reputation. So when we enter the conversation, it's how do we make this in a positive light for the brand? And I think tactically it looks very different depending on what.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue that like that's always been the case to a certain degree, meaning like there was always okay, we can try this tactic. There's always because at the end of the day, search algorithms, it's a black box. It's the people's job like you and I to basically understand and make hypotheses about how this black box is going to react. We don't know for sure, and this then means we're doing cost benefit analysis of well, we could do this. Here are the pros, here are the cons. I think the difference now is number one, there's different platforms. So before it was we could just center on Google. Now it's like, well, we see some things working in ChatGPT that might work differently in Google. And then there's Google traditional and Google.AI mode and what's going on with Google Gemini. So it's hard to even wrap your head around one set of tactics. And the other thing is, it's like, I sort of see it, and this is kind of what you're getting at, I think, that SEO has come full circle, where like, we're right back to where we started with a bunch of things because like the fundamentals broke down. And now that like this whole AI chat thing is sort of has been inserted as an intermediary into the way this thing works, it brings up very fundamental questions of like, well, what's trustworthy? How do I put out signals? And while Google has made their whole business, at least the search side, out of being able to sort out these signals, ChatGPT is not, which is why they're leaning on like Bing and Google search results to a varying degree. But then the nature of chat is just fundamentally different. Like one take I have on search now is that everything is long tail. Because even if you search, first of all, if you search something broad, like I'm looking for the best CRM, you're going to get a follow-up question from a chatbot like, well, tell me more about your business. Are you a big, small, are you industry? Personalization. It'll already know that and it'll factor that in. And then most importantly, we were all conditioned to search in a certain way because Google wasn't great and we knew that we sort of had to search like human apes of like best CRM because if you asked a long question, you knew it wouldn't work. Now you can get a more detailed answer. But the flip side of that is as everything goes more long tail, all these long tail subjects have not that many pieces of information on them. At least a lot do. So then it sort of comes back to it's easy to spam because you answer, if you're the only person on the internet answering this one question, it stands to reason that you can therefore impact it. So it kind of breaks a lot of this SEO model around authority, and the platforms have to figure out what are we going to do with this? Because on the one hand, we want to answer all these questions. On the other hand, if we just grab information and restate it, we're going to look like idiots some of the time because there's a lot of bad information on the internet. I don't know if you've heard.
What? What? Talking about looking like idiots. I've been asking guests this for the last few episodes. I'm wondering when I'm going to get a yes or if I just need to stop asking. Are you going to be writing content for not just bots, but for AI agents?
I think we already are.
All right, then.
But it depends how you parse that.
I missed the moment. I went from definitely not to
yeah.
Damn it. Well, I was supposed to be writing content for him.
Well, I think it depends how you phrase AI agents. Because to me, like AI agent, like isn't ChatGPT an AI agent? It's basically it's going to your website and getting information, and then it's like helping people make a decision. I guess the main distinction is the agent taking multiple steps there, or is it just going to retrieve information? And like I don't pretend to have a crystal ball or super informed opinion on this because the thing with agents seems to be they were this big promise last year that hasn't fully materialized. I've heard they're getting better. I've seen some proof of that. at some point it will get better. But I think the main sort of concept there is, again, it's a concept that's always existed in SEO, is there's bots and people. It just now, the nature of the information retrieval and the nuance of how they can understand the information is different. But like, we are doing projects where we're like, we think that someone that either via personalization or a long tail prompt, this element might come up, and we are creating a page to serve that intent. I guess you can decide if that's agents or not. I don't know, but it's basically people are searching for problems and we want to be found for them, which in a way is like what SEO is always supposed to be.
All right. I couldn't suck you into my SEO philosophy corner here, but we keep skirting around. You were saying you want to talk about yesterday, the announcement of personalization, and I was skirting around it because I hadn't heard of this. So can you educate me? And in so doing, we'll educate.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, like, to be clear, I've read like 2.5 articles, so I'm not going to say I have a PhD on this, but basically Google announced something that is predictable, which is that I think they're calling the product intelligence. It's basically, and this makes total sense for an ecosystem like Google, right? Like, you have a Google account, which means you have photos, you have Gmail. They didn't even mention this, I think, but there's maps. Like, think about all the Google applications you use through your account, and then therefore they have information saved about you. They're basically saying officially, we are going to unify that into personalization that manifests itself within our different products. So we're going to take knowledge about how you interact with these different products and put it into other ones. And they mention as sort of an offhand thing, oh, and this will also be getting tested in AI mode, which to me tells me that search is just getting totally personalized, which means, again, even if you search for like best water bottles, it's going to be like, well, as the CEO of an SEO agency living in this place and liking to go running on Tuesdays and Thursdays, you probably want a water bottle that does this, which means our job as SEO folks is now basically like audience intelligence and deep product marketing to understand and try to back into what are all those elements that people are looking up or that will make their way into personalization that we need to track and understand how these platforms understand how we solve these problems for all these very specific segments of intent. And then how do we take action to improve that? Which, again, it sounds like common sense, but if we're being real, it was keyword research for a long time. It was like, okay, product marketing says this thing, we'll take that and then do keyword research. I think it's flipped. And now the thing we care most about is like deep audience research, either by like talking to them about it and extracting data from sources like Gall. And then, of course, I'm talking more B2B. For consumer products, there is more data out there. Like, there's Amazon reviews for tons of categories where you can ascertain what people care about.
Yeah, so for the longest at Jolly SEO, our ICP, our avatars, they were like your classic, hilarious Jane and John. And I mean, we just don't have that many as well. So we're going to be what? We need to do more surveys. We need to get on more calls that we log. We need to ask people what their favorite color is and what holidays they observe.
So, yeah, our approach is, again, this is going to sound like the most basic statement ever, but it's actually having a deep and keyword structured understanding of what are all the things that matter to people as they're doing a search? Like, what are all the various elements of their problem? What are the various elements of the solutions they're looking for? And then what are the various elements of them? And what we call these are product attributes and customer attributes. Customer attributes are, and then we structure these. So like, for example, this is something I never used to do, but now one of the core things we do when we start with a company is we get data on their top industries. Why is that? It's because like before you would look up like, I don't know, dental software for this or like email marketing software for real estate. And there wouldn't be that much search volume and you wouldn't really care. But now via either personalization or the incentives to explicitly prompt or these chatbots asking follow-up questions, that matters a lot more now. And I've seen it where like, because it even shows the query fan out sometimes. If you ask for best email marketing software and you have a long prompt or it infers via personalization, it'll search for email marketing software agencies, email marketing software real estate, email marketing software whatever. So my take is basically that between personalization and the long tail nature of search, what we have to do is kind of deconstruct what are all the elements of people that will make its way into their conversations. What are all the elements of their problems? What are all the elements of their solutions? Meaning like, I'm looking for a this for that. This is something I end up saying on calls all the time now. Like, it's X for Y. It's like we're trying to deconstruct all the elements by which people look up their problems, their solutions, and their own characteristics that make it in.
Okay, question. A lot of this sounds new. I've been saying a lot of old is new again. That's been my favorite phrase lately. Yeah, thumbs up. Thank you. I don't look like a total idiot in front of Nigel. That's always a plus for me. What's something that you're saying lately that kind of mind blown that you're saying it again? That you're like, we're back here?
Yeah. I think zooming out a bit, I think you have to look at what is everyone's mental model around SEO. And when you go back, it's basically like SEO never made sense. It was always doing kind of borderline dumb shit that didn't make common sense, but everyone accepted that this dumb shit makes money. So like, for example, just like way back in the day, it was keyword stuff. And then it would be like, have you been in the position where it comes to content where like you want to be talking about a topic like, again, like example, email marketing software. And the SEO research basically says, well, we have to say, what is email marketing software? Best examples of email marketing software, how to do this, how to do that. And like a product marketing person who's smart would look at it and be like, how does this make sense? I don't know. Like, and then it would be like the SEO people say we have to rank and it makes money. So just like put your brain in a box and accept it. So that to me is the underlying, like how we got to this point of where, again, like I think the biggest one to me is just like our job is not to do keyword research and do weird SEO stuff that makes sense in a weird SEO way. It's like, it's very fundamental marketing. It's, again, reverse engineering. What are all the things my customer cares about? What are all the problems they have and their characteristics? And then how do we make sure that we are seen for those and that we monitor the way that we're being talked about around those concepts? And that's just marketing, right? Like, what is marketing? It's like you understand your customer and you put out a message to them. But SEO is like in its own weird corner where it existed with like 15% common sense and 85% weird. It's search intent, and we just have to do this stuff. And now I think we made the bed, we got to lay in it. We conditioned all these people, like marketing execs and other smart people, to be like, this is this dumb stuff we're doing. Trust me, it's SEO. Now we have to be like, psych! While there's always going to be a nuance to the channel and indexation and discovery and all this stuff, we're actually going all the way back to like the common sense questions you were pushing us on 10 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how we started talking pre-recording, right? And it's been an interesting thing to see other SEOs who I've always struggled with this internally at Jolly. The type of work we do, I always consider us more under people's brand marketing budget. And I think most SEOs struggle because in the org chart, they're lumped together with PPC and performance marketing. And that's a really hard place to be as an SEO when PPC can turn on, turn off, and you're like, well, just give me 3 to 6 months and I'll get you something, I promise. I feel like SEO is embracing the fact that we're going back to core marketing principles. This could be our time to shine. You said make our bed, now we got to lie in it, but I think if we, transparently, we got to own it. And like, hey, we do take a little longer than PPC, but we can actually do well by the brand here too while generating sales. That's what that's the silver lining I'm hoping I'm seeing right.
I couldn't agree more, and I would take it a step further. So like search used to be like, it was the surface area to solve a bunch of problems, but again, like we all kind of subconsciously condition ourselves to this stops being useful at certain points. Look at the way these AI tools can be used to do anything. Search, and when I say search, air quotes, it's like the concept of AI plus search and information retrieval and using AI. It has made this whole bucket of search, whatever you want to call it, 10 times more useful than it ever was before. Because again, like think about all the very specific questions that you ask, whether it's Gemini, like ChatGPT, DeepSeek, whatever choose your model, whatever. Like think about all the very specific problems you can now solve using this technology that you could not solve before. And that's why I think it's like a totally different mental model where it's not this like demand gen thing of, oh, look, people are searching for email marketing software and we have to be seen. It's everything from how do they even form their opinion in the first place to how do they answer very detailed questions about, I'm evaluating these two vendors and this is my situation and this is my criteria. Help me choose the best answer, to it's now customer support. It's now sales enablement. Like I think one thing we're seeing is that I think sales teams are getting way more involved because like we have this concept of objections, which is basically if you're searching for, like, for example, SaaS products in search, and it gives you a list and it says here's the cons of each one. What is that in, like, real marketing company terms? That's an objection. That is something that's going on with sales. This is, like, actually a bigger part of the sales process now. And I think these objections reflect, number one, the online consensus, and it's good to know that people are being formed there. And two, this actually gives you a better feedback loop between your product and the real world, which was before not quite as visible, because now all these signals about your product and brand are being collected in one place, even though it might be a little bit difficult to, like, ask the right questions to structurally extract all of them. So yeah, long way to say I agree with you.
Dude, I got pissed the other day because I was not Googling, excuse me. I was ChatGPTing about Jolly SEO, and the review was negative. And the review is negative because someone's listicle, which we were number 16 on, thank you, of best SEO agencies, said that our pricing wasn't transparent. And I was like, so I had to reach out to this person. I've been ghosted. To ask him, could you, like, the pricing is on the site, but because of you, ChatGPT says we don't list our pricing on our site. And then another example was a directory site I'd never heard of, has a really clever SEO play. They create a profile for your business. When you finally stumble across your negative search results in ChatGPT saying you have a low score, because they give you a low score because you never filled out your profile on their site, then they get to blackmail you for free content, and then they'll raise your profile score. And so I've been playing these games of, I call it ChatGPT reputation management. We're offsite people. I think a lot of what you were saying was talking about onsite, but what do you think about managing your reputation off your own site? Like, what, I don't know if that's relevant to how you serve your clients, but it's just something I've been trying to learn how to do.
Yeah, I mean, look, our job is to help companies understand what this channel looks like and then improve it. What does improving it mean? Another way I like to talk about the new era of search is it's the weighted average of everything that's said about you and your product and brand and category across the internet, which means shaping the way you're talked about has never been more important. And I think there's sort of, this is where, like, old models and new models kind of collide, because there's, like, affiliate sites, and then there's, like, people basically publishing content so that they can hold you hostage. That's what you were speaking to, I think. But then, like, they're sort of looking at what signals across the web can we influence. So one thing we do when we start with a company is we ingest a list of all their types of partners. And partners is a loaded term within companies, if you ever worked with big companies. So that means everything from, like, tech partners, integration partners, like, it could be, like, affiliates. And basically the idea is, who are all the entities with an internet presence that we have a relationship with? And then we ingest all that data and we cross-check it with what are all the cited domains we're seeing across everything we're tracking across all these different tools. So this gives us an easy starting point of what already has influence and we have a relationship with. Let's go to them. And then another thing we do is we have this concept of, I think we're trying to figure out how to name it, like a canonical brand blurb, which is basically, here's how we want to be talked about, inclusive of all the areas where we're not performing well in AI search. And then using an AI workflow, we can cross-check that with, here's the way you're talked about on all these sites, and then which ones are not lining up. And then within that, it's like, which ones do we already have a relationship with? Now, it would be a lie to say this is very easy to operationalize. Oh, no, just go out and get them to change it. That is not easy. There's examples where we've been working on this for months and are still trying to get stuff changed. But I think it's a big concept is like networks of relationships, which as an off-page person, you know, you've been doing this in various forms for a long time now, but now it takes on a different form. That's my opinion.
That's awesome. Nigel, we're coming up on time, and my favorite question of the whole podcast series is always this. You are way smarter than me. I've known this since we met 8 years ago, I think. I just want to ask you, what did I not think to ask you about that you'd like to leave our audience with before we part ways?
That's a big existential question, Greg. Okay, how about, like, how do I, so if right now we're in the industry of surveying businesses, right? I think a question might be, what does the future look like, and what does it hold for our industry? Meaning people that work for companies or with companies. And again, everyone likes making predictions. I don't pretend to have a crystal ball, but what I do see is where are things going? And I think it's people who have built their career off of understanding how to like do an export from Ahrefs and then make very like super structured recommendations of, oh look, you don't rank for this keyword, we must create this content, here's what they did, let's copy it. Like if that is the extent to which anyone in our industry, including me, like continues to work, we will have to find a new line of work, something else to do. But the inverse of that is like I have never been more energized by all of this. Like if things got a little wash, rinse, repeat for a long time doing this, I always had fun growing the business. There was always new challenges with new companies, but like at the end of the day, it was kind of closer to wash, rinse, repeat. Now it's like every day I find myself asking existential questions that get me excited because I feel that I'm in a position to solve a problem in a way that no one has solved this problem before. That doesn't mean it's going to work or that I'm necessarily going to do the best job. I hope I do, but I think you have to put out the mindset of like SEO is following this process and also just having a rigid mindset. Like I think a lot of these arguments I see on SEO versus geo, it's like if you're having this conversation means that you're not trying to figure out how to adapt and survive. And like I think I can speak for myself. Over the last couple of years, I had many moments of like, oh my God, what does this mean? Like, am I going to have work in a year or two? And then once I fully wrapped my head around it, I was like, no, like the end of the day, unless companies stop existing and unless companies stop hiring people to solve problems for them, we are going to have work. But the work is gaining more leverage, and I think there is going to be less work to go around, and those who figure out how to get a command of the way this new world works are going to have more leverage to take more of the pie. So I think we're in a period right now where you have to learn as quickly as possible and then be willing to have an open mind. And again, I'm speaking to myself as well because I have to I'm trying to question all the things I take for granted to make sure that I'm putting myself in a position to solve these problems as good as anyone else. But yeah. Hopefully that's not a disappointing answer.
Right there with you, Nigel. I was just wrapping up a podcast. As you know, I was late and I'm keeping you late. And I was trying to describe what I think a lot of us agency owners saw over the last year or two. We were entering an evolutionary bottleneck, and that means there will be less on the other side. We've all seen some drop off over the last couple of years, and we're not out of it by my estimates. I feel like we're right in it. And so while I'm grateful and I still believe we will be on the other side, there's a lot of work to do to be on the other side. And I think, though, the opportunity is what you describe. If we can be useful to our clients, that's what they're paying us to do. And that's what they need us to do, because we may not know exactly how to get there. They don't either. And they are busy solving other problems. And that's why they look to outside support. This was awesome, man. I really appreciate your time. Can you tell the people, if they haven't read the awesome sign behind you yet, where they should look you up?
OGM, which is not the domain, which is confusing. Marketingog.com.
Yeah, well, he's the OG of marketing. Nigel Stevens, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Greg.